going on, everybody? Back in for another NASCAR DFS breakdown. We've got Atlanta this week, first race of the playoffs. How you feeling about this, Josh?
I'm feeling all right. I mean, NFL Sunday, I feel like the viewership of it's going to at least be dropped in half, at least.
Yeah.
But I mean, it used to be a fun race to watch. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, reading online this morning says it might be turning into a boring race.
Yeah, it's definitely a different one now over the last couple of years. So if you'll notice on our sheet, we have everything sorted for track history is back just to the repave. So that's nice. We can just look at track history and know that it's all from the same type of race. So, like you said, NFL Sunday, Week 1. We've got I already did a breakdown for that last night, late last night. So be sure if you guys are into NFL, be sure to check that out this morning. Plenty of time to do that. All my ranks are already up. Cores are up for cash on both sites, and then I'll have tournament cores up here in just a bit. As promised, though, we are here again to break down NASCAR. We said we would not. We're not going to miss the races throughout the rest of the year. There's not, of course, that many left. I guess as we wind down the last couple months here of the season. So we're going to go tier by tier in pricing. This is kind of I called it before we came on, I called it a hybrid type race where you've got kind of a hybrid between a super speedway and a mile and a half or something like that, where place differential is going to be somewhat king, but as we saw yesterday, you had mentioned it in the Xfinity race, got a little boring with some single file stuff. So there are, and we've seen drivers lead laps here. So it's not like a Daytona where there's just not going to be anybody rack up enough dominator points. I think you can still play one or two dominators and hope that gets you there. What are your thoughts on that for lineup construction?
My thoughts are Blaney's going to lead over half this. That's my. I mean, since the second race of the repave, the past 4 races, he has not finished outside the top 9. And let's see, where's his laps? He's only led 51 laps, which is surprising to me. But he's starting second, and he's got a Ford starting behind him because McDowell and Gilliland starting 1 and 3 are going to line up wherever Gilliland's at. McDowell's going to line up in front of him. You know what I mean? So Blaney's going to be in front of Barry. In my opinion, Barry's going to push Blaney to the front, and they're going to lead 1-2 for.
I don't know if that's me or Josh that froze up there.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know who that was, but we're good now. So, yeah, I completely agree. I could see that happening at the front of the field here. If you look back here, I'm just on the track history tab looking at the laps led in the spring, and it was pretty spread out of the guys who finished in the top when Suarez won here. But we did have Gilliland, who started 4th. He led 58 laps. So, I mean, that's not insignificant, especially at his price tag. And then it was kind of spread out where there were 4 or 5 guys getting in the mid-20s and just boosting their floor a little bit. In the fall of last year, we had Chris Buescher led 39, Almirola led 46. And then you had a few guys right around 20, Byron, Keselowski, and Blaney. So it's not, I wouldn't go, I'm going to go 1 to 2, whereas usually on a normal mile and a half, I'm going 2 to 3. Is that kind of what you're doing here?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to go 1-2 dominators and the rest place differential. I just don't know who the place differential is going to be. I know who one of them is going to be because he's going to be 90% owned, and that's Denny Hamlin. I mean, you almost have. I mean, everybody should put him in their lineup unless you specifically doing 20 or 150. You can have some without him, but yeah, I mean, I think I'll go Blaney, and I'm not sure who the other dominator that I'll pick, but it's good out of the top tier. It's going to be Blaney and Hamlin, absolutely 100% for sure, because I'm just doing single entries.
Yeah. Hamlin, I think, is definitely the top overall play. He's definitely cash lock if you're doing that. The rest of this tier, it's funny that, when we come here, we've got Ford as the top 3 price. We don't usually see that ever, at least this year or last few years. Larson starts 6th. He's not been very good in terms of finishing here, but he's never been a great finisher at super speedway. So I guess that's translating here. Logano won here in the spring of last year up top as well. I mean, you can make a case for a few of these guys. And just hope that they have the speed, I mentioned it on our last Daytona show where I like to mini stack teams sometimes in these races. I think that still applies here, even more so if they can get out and lead laps and do that. So you could go like a Logano Blaney pairing at top, but salary's a little softer this week, I guess, with people in the tens, but just trying to figure out, can you punt enough there at the bottom or get enough value in the bottom to make 3 of those work above 10? I don't know if you can. So something else I mentioned at the last Daytona show is these guys that starting like Denny Hamlin, single entry, you're plugging them in. If you're playing like 20, don't go 100% Denny just because he's starting there, because I said my wording was always forget these people can wreck too. So it can happen. So maybe you do a Logano and Blaney team without him, and that's how you finish.
Yep. I actually agree with that. Brad K at starting 19th's got plenty of place differential too. Being in a Ford, Fords like get together as a Ford team and discuss these races strategy until the end. Then it's free for all. Ford does really good about plate races and this Atlanta race about working together as a team normally.
Yeah, and Buescher starts kind of right there with him as we move into the mid tier. I mean, they could hook up early. The question is, do they get to the front and lead? I think they could at some point for sure. The mid tier is kind of loaded up with mid place differential, where you've got Reddick 23rd, Bell 26th, Truex 22nd, Chastain 18, Bubba 24. You've got a lot of guys in that range. They're in the low 20s. I think all those are good plays, somewhat good plays. I mean, you can't play them all, of course, but Reddick has not been great here outside of one finish, but at super speedways, he's been pretty good.
Overall,
you could go a tournament shot on Kyle Busch, who's looked really good over the last few weeks.
And
he starts 15th. I don't think he's one that I don't think you have to worry about dipping off into the playoffs, even though he's not in. He wants to at least maybe knocks off a win because he wants to keep the streak alive there.
I was just about to say.
And he starts 15th, so that's not horrible under 9K for place differential either. So I don't hate him. My favorite would probably be Bell and Reddick in that range in the mid-8s. What about you?
In the mid-8s, I'm kind of a fan of Truex there. I mean, I know he's 81, not the mid-8s, but he started 22nd. He's finished in the top 20 all but one race, and the top 12 in 3 of the last 5. So to me, Truex stands out there.
Yeah. I think like I said, I think you can make a case for all of them. Maybe you do that Toyota pairing of Bell and Truex, JGR, or maybe you do a Reddick Bubba pairing, or you don't have to pair those together. Of course, it's funny just how it kind of works out with pricing. You got 3 Fords at the top, then you get the 3 better Hendrick cars, I guess I'll say, in the 9s there with Larson, Chase, and Byron, that you could do something similar. Then you get a Toyota group of Reddick and Bell and Truex and Bubba. So that's just kind of weird how that pricing falls out. Right below them, you've got McDowell, who's on the pole, like you mentioned. He's got Gillen starting 3rd. Can they hook up? They've showed speed, especially in like qualifying, and if they leave a similar type setup And they do this a lot. If they leave a similar type setup to qualifying where they're fast early in runs, they could get out front and lead here, and that's what Gillen did in the spring. So,
Yeah.
Maybe you do like a cheap one of those two guys with a Blaney, and that's how you get your dominators. And then you're not spending as much salary on forward starters because, McDowell had 2 straight top 10s here. If he leads some laps and finishes in the top 10, I think he's still fine.
Oh, absolutely.
As we kind of just drop into the 6 and 7s overall, Gilliland is not finished very well here, like in the spring when he led and he finished 26th. I mean, that probably kills you, and you lose pretty much all your dominator points at that point, so it's not really worth it. He's got to still finish this thing in the top 10.
Yeah.
Suarez, of course, winner here in the spring, 2nd last fall, 4th and 6th in 2022, and starts 30th. He's probably going to be pretty chalky at 75, but I think he makes a ton of sense. Really good play. Probably you're pushing him probably into the single entry stuff. Ty Gibbs starts 20th. He's a fine play. I will probably avoid Cindric, Briscoe, Bowman, probably all those guys that are right around the 10th starting spot. And probably Austin Dillon, Josh Berry, both of those as well. Probably even Gregson. So all the cheap guys who are starting around the top 10, I'm probably fading those and maybe playing a few at the top that are starting in the top 10 outside of McDowell and Gillen. That's all I've got really down here.
I agree. I don't mind Eric Jones starting 33rd in his in the spring this year. I'm not sure if he crashed out or just had a bad race, but I mean, after the first repave, he was 14th. That's not bad for starting 33rd.
Yeah.
And then I'm with you. You might be able to play Gillen, but that to me that's too questionable if you're doing single entry. Stenhouse stands out a little bit, but we know Stenhouse in these races. He's checkers or wreckers. There's no gray area.
Yeah, I mean, 2 straight top 10s here. I could probably talk myself into him for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
But
I'm with you. I wouldn't do Dillon. I wouldn't do Gregson. I wouldn't do Barry. LaJoie's playable, I think.
Yeah.
Honestly, Harrison Burton to me, for some reason, when I first looked at this sheet after the qualifying today and everything was in there, to me, I can make a case to play him at 6,200.
I mean good at these races. 2 top 10s out of the last 4 or right around 10th, 11th.
And being,
I don't know about the place differential would be the question mark.
Yeah, but being he's in the playoffs too, he's going to give it 100% effort, So that's why I could probably talk myself into playing him in the single entries. I mean, I wouldn't go out. I wouldn't pick him as like a top 3 pick, but if I happen to land on him, that wouldn't bother me.
Yeah, so I guess the question for me when it comes to him would be, if you land on him in the last spot, is there anybody slightly below that you would rather play and that starts farther back? Like if you land on enough salary for LaJoie, I'd probably rather play him. I'd probably rather play Haley. Just personally. I'm not saying you can't do it, especially in a race like this.
Yeah, everything there. The reason why I can make a case for Burton is that exact reason. He's probably going to be super low owned. So if you're playing,
he'll definitely be half as owned as the 2 I just mentioned.
Yeah,
I would say
for sure. So playing 6 entries, that's some decent leverage, I think.
Yep. Priest would be okay. SVG is a no-go for sure. Still at these tracks, we talked about that at Daytona. He's just kind of getting used to it. I think Kosovar is a really good play at 57. Starting 32nd, he's just kind of shown had a solid year. Not really hurt a ton out of it, but he's just been decent. Hemrick is starting too far forward for me. I'd rather take a shot on the place differential here in this range. John Hunter's okay. Zane's okay. And you could even make a case for like J.J. Yaley down there at starting 37th.
Yep.
So anybody to finish out here the bottom range?
No, I mean you pretty much covered it all. I was going to say J.J. Yaley is a pure punt play to help you get some more expensive guys. That's where I was going to go.
So before we get out of here, let's do something kind of similar to what we do in the college shows, where we do favorite stacks in those. So let's give our favorite overall play slightly off the board.
Slightly off the board. You want me to go first? Or you want to go first?
Go ahead.
Oh, slightly off the board. I could make a case for playing. Let me see here. I wasn't ready for this. I can make a case for playing Busher and Keselowski. We already talked about that as late as being in the late teens. I could see them not being as owned as obviously the guys in the 20s and 30s. So you could make a case for that. And I also here's my one that I really like. Daniel Suarez, obvious chalk, but pairing him with Ross Chastain starting 18th. Both of them finish well here. So to me, I could see that pairing because they could get together by the end of stage one and stay together the entire rest of the race.
Yeah, I like it. I think my play's not going to be a big place differential option, but he's got a little bit. And I think he could even get out front and lead here. And it's Kyle Busch. I think he's going to be aggressive in this race. I like what I've seen out of him over the last few weeks. It's I know it really doesn't apply to when you come to a race like this, recent form, but there's something about having some good trend in just with the team and what they're doing here. So I think it'll be Kyle Busch for me.
I can get behind that. Like you said earlier, he's definitely going to want to keep that win streak alive. And I think they like you said, the entire team, not just him, the entire team have put forth 110% effort the past 4 or 5 weeks. If they'd been doing that all year, they'd be in the playoffs easily.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think they want to build into next year. I was listening back when all this stuff with Austin was going on. I was listening to some podcast. I can't remember which podcast it was he was on. And he mentioned that they've got a lot of or some new faces that they don't want to announce yet coming into the team.
Oh, okay.
In terms of, I don't know if it's crew chief, I don't know what it is, but I think they really are looking to try to build in the next year. So I think both, it's probably not the spot for Austin here, but I think both those guys are going to give effort through this playoff run.
I agree.
Even though they're not in it.
Yep, I agree fully.
All right, well, that's it for me. Let's get over to some NFL. Good luck to everybody today. Got the little ones here. Both. So good luck to everybody today. Let's have a good week.